the ability to change the viewing experience for the consumer to what's actually happening on the field and on the court. So that's what this is about, and we'll just see where this goes. So let me ask Ryan Gerardo, President and CEO of Players Revolution Sports and E-Play, to come up and introduce himself to these fine folks here.
I must be really strong for you to be that afraid.
Well, you never know. Let's go with it. You're the press. So,
yeah.
Come on in, welcome. Come have a seat. You're in the right place.
All right. Thank you.
Well, welcome. As Charles said, this is our very first meeting ever, so we appreciate you coming out, founding fathers all here. A little bit about what we're doing. We're launching an app. It actually launches in the App Store next month. It's called E-Play by Players Revolution. Essentially, it's looking to turn pickup basketball, or really the adult basketball experience, on its head. You can play as a team and build towards, yeah, that's it right there. You can play as a team and build towards national tournaments, cash prizes. We've even partnered with the NBA D-League's Texas Legends. We've created a competition matching algorithm that helps them assess the value of the games that you're playing. And we do it for pennies on the dollar compared to existing leagues. And there are also free events too. You can call a referee wherever you're at. So we're pretty excited about that. On the individual side, we've launched a new concept called Pickup Leagues. Basically, it's a way for players to come play pickup in a 1 hour segment. They show up as an individual. We match them up with a team. They get playing, and those what they're generating there, it's all score capped, officiated, and what they're generating there counts towards their careers as an individual as well. So we're pretty excited about what's coming up with Players Revolution, but we're also excited to hear about all the ideas that you guys have and ways we can help move things forward. We've started this group because I'm sure you guys probably read the Dallas Morning News on Monday morning. I thought it was funny that we already had this on the books, because that Frisco is a sports technology hub. Stars there, we all know Cuban's a great owner, but there is no one group that pools resources together at the moment for sports technologists. There's a lot here for just general startups, but sports tech is hot. And we've had some discussions. It's a space that needs to be digitized, and it's going to be. So we're here as a group to help move everyone's agenda forward in filling that vacuum that we believe currently exists. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for coming. Mike Fisher is here, of course, of CBS Radio on the Fan. He's in my ear every day at lunch when I turn on the car radio. So Fish, thank you for coming. Charles, you guys lead the show.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, before we totally end there, I'd like to introduce Blake High, who is our interim CEO. And if you hadn't got a chance to meet him, thank you for being here again.
CFO, unless I'm fired.
No, that's right. You are fired, by the way.
We forgot to tell you.
All right, real quick, a more formal introduction. Mike Fisher, 30 plus years in this marketplace, been to 21 Super Bowls as an author. He has, with the CBS and the Fan Radio, built DallasBasketball.com single-handedly from the ground up, and I want him to share that story here in just a little bit. You've probably seen him on television. You've heard him on podcasts. He's taken over Facebook these days and Twitter. He's really seen it all. The very first time I met Mike was at Super Bowl 30 in Tempe, Arizona, and this does have a purpose here. Cowboys had just won that third Super Bowl in 3 years. Third Super Bowl in 4 years, if I recall. And everybody left Tempe. We were still there, and it was a little dive bar, sports bar, and Mike's in there doing his show, his radio show, and the place is empty. They're just sweeping up, and he's in there in Tempe doing it. And this was, of course, before the internet. This is '95. And he's trying to do a show, and he's doing call-in from Dallas. And I got my hands on a Dallas Morning newspaper. And of course, no internet. I mean, he was like, "Where'd you get that paper?" And I said, "Do you run it?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Now I can do a show." And we laughed about it, but we found a paper. That's how you got your news. You couldn't just tweet it immediately. And so we've come a long way, and the way you do your job has come a long way. So a round of applause for Mike Fisher.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Leave it hanging, bro. Leave it hanging. Leave it hanging.
Sorry, don't you do that? Sorry.
Appreciate that
I
story.
apologize.
I appreciate you saying that the bar was empty. It wasn't my fault. We were in
No,
Arizona.
it's like 10 in the morning. It's just open.
All the Cowboy fans, it was 10 a.m. All the Cowboy fans were either on their way back home or like me, hungover after that was the Barry Switzer Super Bowl. I thought we might go around the room and say who's who and you know, give them the magnet reason what draw you here, your name and why you're here.
My name is Akeem. I am launching an app next year in the soccer industry. Kind of along what they're doing as far as like making pickup soccer more efficient and less friction. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. It's called Tribe Soccer.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'm next. I'm Alan Snelling. I'm actually executive corporate finance guy for a big oil company in the Middle East, and I just happened to be friends with Blake. I was stateside. He said, "Hey, got a gig going tonight that you need to come out and see." So that's why I'm here. So anyway, glad to meet everybody.
You didn't come here from Saudi Arabia for this. We're just a stop on the way.
Not quite. That would be good.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Derek. I'm a software developer. Just love the sports industry. Been in past life was an entrepreneur, so looking to do something as well.
Very good. Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Litter. I'm from TSA. That's TSA.com, not .gov. No blue gloves and nothing nasty at the airport. And we are a IT software solutions-based company, headquartered out of Houston.
Good.
I'm in Dallas. We have an office in Birmingham, in Atlanta. But I'm here because DFW sports technology is very interesting to me, and I really like what you guys have put together, because I think we need more of that. When I'm older, I used to play indoor soccer, so I used to try to find the teams.
Right.
This would make it so much easier.
Absolutely.
To have an app on, I can follow this guy, he can find out where he's playing tonight, I want to go play with him.
Right.
So I think it's great.
Very good.
Fantastic what I've heard already, just within the 5 minutes of it.
Nice to meet you. Very good. Jamie.
Jamie Horton. I have dreams of playing for the Legends, so that's why I'm here. I've been in radio for 8 years, and now this being my 9th year, I started a company of my own. April 21st of last year, the same day Prince died, so it was a big day for all of us. I took a shot and I kind of lost, but I'm back in Fort Worth, where I'm originally from, and I do a podcast with Mike, Cowboy Starcast. And so yeah, I'm trying to find a niche right now, and so I thought I'd come here and see what this was about and be a part of it. I don't know how to make apps, but I know how to use them, so.
There you go. Very good. You already do you?
Yeah, we kinda did.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Kedrian Cole, or I go by Ked. I'm the head of business development for an investment firm, Frisco-based investment firm called Launchpad City. We're actually really excited about sports technology. I was talking to Ryan about it. It's a lot of good innovation happening in this space, and we took over the old Intake building just up the road, 5 minutes away on Research Road. So if you guys ever in the area, definitely come by. We have co-working, office space. We do mentorship and also provide funding for startups that we're interested in working with. We're really focused on sports and esports technology, and just really happy to be a part of the community.
Good. Nice to meet you.
So my name is Daryl Duvall. I started a company called Powering You. So I deal with data, analytics, just like you said, sports. Digital is the way of the future. People are looking at basically, where your followers are, how you target your market. And I deal with current and pro athletes on trying to build their brands up, and also having brands, basically, again, just like I said, trying to find that target market. And I also kind of work with a cause on that too, so I do events. And it's kind of funny, you was talking about esports. That's one of the things that kind of working with Samsung on trying to do something with, and they want to kind of get into the esport market because esport obviously is becoming a big thing. And so,
Right. Very good.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like we all kind of came to the same place at the right time for the different reasons. I'm not a technology guy, so I'll learn plenty from most of you. But I've had to run as fast as I could. In 1998, I think, I was doing a radio show, daily radio shows, Fish for Lunch, noon to 3. These guys grew up on it. And Justin Frizzell, who's since gone on himself and in country music, got kind of a big deal as a radio DJ. He was my producer. I would take out a yellow legal pad. He would show me my emails. I would write down my response to the email, and he would type the response.
Just like Norm still does.
Yeah. Now I wasn't 500 years old. I was 38 years old. But it was so beyond me at that time. And then 2 years later, my association with Cuban, who we were friends before he was a billionaire. We were friends before he was a billionaire and a complete jackass. He was just a millionaire and he was cocky. He drove me to start DallasBasketball.com. At the time, of course, I don't know how many of you follow, surely you follow the NBA a little bit. You know, the Mavericks in 1999, and they weren't on the map. They couldn't get on the front page of the morning news or the Star Telegram. They just didn't matter that way. And so he helped me see the void. So we started what really is probably the first website of its kind that is a newspaper online without paper. And I promise you, I didn't know what I was doing. And to this day, I so borrow from. You guys have no idea how I'm going to text you now and say, how did you do that again? Well, how did that work again? Because I don't get it. Help me. But a lot of people help me and get that thing going. And then over the years, of course, just like you all have, if you're over the age of 20, you reinvented yourself. Some of you were way too old to have been in, not you, but you weren't in this kind of racket when you were 20. Yeah, I mean, it didn't exist. The core of it for me is still journalism. And so, for instance, the core of it for Ryan is still basketball. That's really the reason you're here. And Players Rev's going to become soccer and softball and flag football and all of it. But his love for basketball is his drive. And my inability to play sports at any sort of a decent level, a realization I made when I was 11, is my drive to decide, well, then I'm going to cover him, or I'm going to coach him, or I'm going to be a ref or something. And so just like basketball is his core, and you guys must have had your core, you must be a soccer guy, right? And that drove you to figure out how to make a living at it. It's still about journalism for me, and it's still about sports journalism for me. And there's a core value that I see bastardized every day. Jamie, you already probably know where I'm going here. And it happened just in the last few days with Des Bryant, who I think we're all familiar with, right? And you certainly are, because if you could get some Des Bryant signed up for what you're doing, you need a few Des Bryants and away we go, right? Yeah. Des goes on social media over the weekend, and he and I, we were just talking about this, he and I are kicking back and forth on Twitter. He's sending me pictures of his shoes. He has a shoe fetish. And then some would say I have a Des fetish, because I think it's fascinating. He says he's got 3,000 pairs of tennis shoes in his closet at home. And so he's showing me his shoes, and then he's tweeting him, and we're tweeting him and stuff. And it was cute, and it was entertaining. And that was a moment of peace in between kind of a thunderstorm. Because what he had done a few days before that, and what I then did today, was about race in America. And of course, in my business, in journalism, if you can do it honestly, if you can talk about the Cowboys honestly, Cowboys get you attention. Agreed? Even if you're not a Cowboy fan, Cowboys in the headline, that eyeballs gravitate that way. You don't have to like them necessarily. It's Kardashian-like in a way. So Des puts up a bunch of posts about race in America, and the short version is that for whatever's happened in the past, this is Des's view now, whatever's happened in the past over the course of the last 200 years, 2,000 years, hey, young men, young women of all colors, of all ethnicity, we need to move forward. We need to not blame people. We need to forgive and forget. We need to have the power to move forward. Well, the reaction was instant. And as you might guess, because a positive instant reaction doesn't move the ratings needle on TV, obviously it was a negative ratings reaction. And most sports outlets didn't prop up their white guy to argue with Des Bryant, because that gets a little too incendiary. So here comes a lot of people I respect highly. Jameel Hill from ESPN, I respect highly. Stephen A. Smith is horrific, and I do not respect highly, which we'll get to in a minute. And here comes this mountain of argument and this mountain of criticism for what Des Bryant said. And nowhere in there did anybody, and this is what I wrote about, tweeted about, I did Facebook Live on it, wrote 2 different columns on it on 2 different websites. And Des retweeted the Facebook Live to try to reiterate the message that I had interpreted from him, which is, can I swear in here?
All good.
Why the fuck are we so in a hurry to argue with you? We're arguing so hard and we're arguing so loud, we didn't even hear what you said. We're so instantaneously trying to grab some piece. It's kind of like when, who's married? Who's been divorced? Okay, kind of like that. You're so busy arguing and you're so mad at each other, you don't even hear what she's saying. You're waiting for her to say something stupid. She's waiting for you to say something incendiary, so you can just go right back at each other. And that's what the media is and does do to Des Bryant and countless other people of his ilk. So I just wrote, why do we have to argue about everything? Why have we become societally, and all the way up to deciding who should be president of the United States, why have we decided that everything's a debate? And I hate to say this, because I hate to give him this much credit, but Skip Bayless, who is a hemorrhoid on my industry, and even worse as a person, and I've known him 26 years, it's his fault. He was so successful, less so now, now that he's moved to Fox Sports. It's about a show that nobody watches. But when he was on ESPN, boy, they took that show, everybody's familiar with it, what I'm talking about, right? Was it First Take?
Yeah.
Looks good.
And it's an hour show, and they started at, I don't know, 9 a.m. or whatever,
Yeah.
and then it just keeps rerunning. So if you're a college boy freshman, and you're bored and you're scared and you don't know what to do,
You watch that.
it's on in the background. And then I joke that if you're an invalid who has no batteries in your remote control, then you're stuck having to watch it too. And he makes $6 million a year, and he's wildly popular, and everybody, all the young people who want to be in my industry think that's how you do it. You don't worry about whether Des was right or wrong. You don't worry to listen to Des Bryant. That's not important. You don't care if there's any nuance that Des Bryant offered or any nuance that you should offer. That's not important. All that's important is black, white, red, green, up, down, dry, wet. That's all that matters. And it's ruined discourse. It's ruined conversations. Most of us now, if we're smart, we don't get into conversations about politics in public, do we?
No.
I don't even do it with my dad, let alone with you. I don't want any part of it, and you don't want any part of mine, because we're gonna start to clash instead of share. And I think the only way that we're gonna get ahead, and this can be political, it certainly is sports, but I think it's absolutely in all the industries that we're either dipping our toe into or going head first into. We've got to share. Competition and being cutthroat, there's room for that. I mean, we're ultimately, if you and you are kind of doing the same thing, you want to win. But I learned this in the bar industry. Now I'm 57, so for 55 years, all I ever knew about a bar is how to go in one. And 2 years ago, my buddies who already owned one bar says, we're gonna buy a bar over there. We want you to invest in it. I said, okay. All I know about it is marketing and public relations. Because by this time, as of 2 years ago, I really do feel like I've kind of figured out Twitter and I've kind of figured out Facebook. Instagram and Snapchat.
There you go.
My wife does Snapchat for me, and she texts me pictures of Cowboy. If a Cowboy player does something, she texts me the picture. That's how I'm not there yet. And then Instagram, I'm on it, but I can't figure out how to communicate out. All I do is get crap in. But so I'm getting there. But I do, stuff that I learned from Charles over the year. The SEO and all the little tricks and the times of day to do it and all that kind of stuff. But all that's a result of a combination of being competitive, because I'm just me, but there is no greater satisfaction I have than when I beat ESPN and the Dallas Morning News on a story. It's my Super Bowl, and they only get a Super Bowl once a year. I get to do it. I get a Super Bowl 10 times a day if I want one. The Des Bryant thing, our communication and him retweeting me, the Morning News just pulling out its hair over that. And John Machota, John probably, one of the Cowboy beat writers. Again, they have 5 Cowboy writers at the Morning News. I have 1 Cowboy writer. And John will tell me, he'll say, yeah, he said, slow down, I got yelled at again today. I got yelled at because you did this and this. And that competition, that's part of our DNA, but I think we're losing the sharing part, which is also part of our DNA, right?
Yeah.
Cavemen shared. Before they figured out, boy, we could go to war with them and get some more. Surely this group of cavemen shared. So I think we need to do that. And I think you guys, as young, everybody in here is young except me, you guys as young leaders of your industry, I think we can all help each other. I think we can not make this about, let's take a Des nugget and let's take a piece, make it like raw meat and throw it out in the street and watch all the dogs go chew on it. It's kind of disgusting if you think about it. Then let's pick up that chewed up meat and then let's just grill it till it's super well done. And then let's grill it again. And then let's put it, at ESPN in Bristol, they call it the car wash, right? And it's brilliant. And it's seductive to think about what a great system it is. But they'll get a player, Richard Sherman, or whoever, a nationally known player. And they really do, and I don't know all the shows, but he'll go on SportsCenter at 8 a.m. for an interview. Then he'll go across the hall and he'll go on First Take for 15 minutes. Then he'll go down here and he'll do Mike and Mike and ESPN Radio at 10 o'clock. Then he goes over here and they film a commercial at 11 o'clock. Then he's over here and he spends, it's a 12-hour day for him, and it's the car wash. He goes to the car wash. It's good for the player, I guess. It's exposure, and but they just milk him dry. And of course, when they put him on the First Take thing, he has to argue. So they have to attack him, and then he's got to attack back. And if he doesn't, they won't invite him back. Des, for one, keeps saying, I've just got to go on Shannon Sharp, who's now with Skip, right? Got to go on that show and help you understand. No, Des, you don't. They don't want to understand. They're not interested in your explanation. They already grabbed your piece of meat. They already threw it out in the street. They already let everybody chew on it. Then they already put it in the oven. They already grilled it. They already fried it. It's over. It's dead. And today, ESPN, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, who else? Stephen A. Smith. They blew it. I said it on the radio today. They blew it to Stephen A. Smithereens. It's over. Doesn't matter. Race in America is over today. Because we did that yesterday. We have no interest in that today. Today we got to do, Serena Williams was pregnant when she won the tennis tournament. That's today's sex, money, race, black, white. It's perfect. And then tomorrow, in what used to be, we used to call it a 24-hour news cycle, right? The CNN came on every night with the news. Channel 8 came on it's 24 seconds now. So Serena is the biggest thing going now. BuzzFeed, which is incredibly successful. And I must say, I wish we would have thought of that. It's just, can you call it BuzzFeed? But you know what it is? When you go to any website, it's those things at the bottom. You won't believe what Macaulay Culkin looks like now. And son of a bitch if we don't click on it. And then, click on it and he just looks like older Macaulay Culkin. It doesn't look like anything in particular. You won't believe what the third daughter on the Brady Bunch looks like now. Yeah, I would. She looks like a 60-year-old woman wearing pigtails. Of course I believe what she looks like. What was her name? Cindy.
Yeah.
Of course I believe what she looks like. We've got to find some sort of a balance between the competitiveness and the chewing on that piece of meat, and trying to be fair and sensible and sharing with each other. Again, I really don't want to get into the political thing, but Fox News, which today is getting rid of Bill O'Reilly because he grabbed too much, either with his mouth or his hands. When they called themselves fair and balanced, it's just fantastic. And I'm not a fan of the network, but that's just brilliant. I mean, it's completely counterintuitive to what their real plan was, which is to represent a certain perspective and do it really extremely well when it comes to just burying you in opinion, whether it's fact-based or not. But then to call it fair and balanced is awfully clever. I admire that, but I would admire it more if we were really fair and balanced. If we're really fair to each other as we compete together, and then really balanced in the way that we handle the Des Bryant story, or any story like that. So when it comes to dealing with a player, I bet you would beg for that. Just be fair. Just be fair. When it comes to the app involved, let's be balanced. Yeah, you do want to put little Cindy, who you can't believe what she looks like now, but is it fair? Is it nice? And do we care? And I still think, and I like to think of myself as proof of it. Now, Bill O'Reilly makes how much? $31 million a year? So it does pay to be unfair. I mean, it can. Skip Bayless makes $6 million a year. It's paid well, right? I don't know Bill O'Reilly personally. People ask me, how does Skip Bayless, if what you're accusing of is true? You know the Skip Bayless, Troy Aikman story? Anybody know that story?
Yep. I remember the Roy Tarpley story.
And he got $1 million of it, whatever it took.
He went and followed the guy's sponsor into an AA group,
Correct.
put his name in the paper, bill him.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's a beauty.
that was the best.
Does anybody not know the Aikman story?
Yeah, but Skip is not
He called him gay, right?
but Skip is not as big as Bill, so.
No.
And nobody really cares.
Something about gay bars.
Yeah.
I mean, Skip will go through, we don't watch Skip.
Skip is shrinking.
Yeah, so-
It's true.
And at the time, he was dating, Troy was dating Lori Morgan, I believe, right?
Yeah. I'll give you two quick ones on how to do this wrong. And I really do think not only does it apply to my profession, I think it really does apply when we're trying to do all our things. I'll give you the Alexander Wright one first. Anybody remember him? Anybody Cowboy fan at all here? Okay. Alexander Wright was just the sweetest kid. And he gets drafted out of Auburn. Well, he's Bambi on ice. Remember Bambi? And remember, again, you guys are so young, you don't even know what I'm talking about. He was a sprinter, is really what he was. Spindly legs and incredibly fast and just
Probably he couldn't catch the ball.
he wasn't a football player, but he's a very sweet person. And he was the second round, he was a high pick. So I'm thinking we might be in San Diego for training camp, but maybe it was St. Ed's in Austin. And I see, he hasn't talked to anybody, the kid, and nobody's talked to him. And I mean, not to play, they're treating him like a rookie. And his tail is between his legs. He's scared. He knows he doesn't belong here. They screwed up. And I watched Skip go over to him, and I'm sitting, this is back before I had hearing aids, so I could hear. And I'm sitting 2 picnic tables away. And Skip sits down, puts down his tray. We're outside. Alexander Wright's sitting there, and Skip introduces himself. And by the time this snake charmer was done, he had Alexander Wright believing that he was going to be his, what's the church? He's gonna be his spiritual advisor. He's gonna be his father in the absence of Skip's, of the kids, Alexander Wright's actual father. And they get to talking, and Alexander Wright, to his father, confessor. And it's just me over there and some players over there, but it's a Skip. And he's all but on his knees, saying that his deepest, darkest, and I can hear it, his deepest, darkest secret is that his father beat him his entire life, including 2 weeks ago. Well, my son, the next day, by this time Skip, it wasn't a newspaper thing, it was a fax deal, but whatever. Skip's column the next day was Alexander Wright, quoting every single bit of it. All of it. My father did this, my mother did that, I'm scared, the whole thing. Probably contributed to destroying him. Probably. We'll never know. The Cowboys ran Skip out of town, though, not after that one. They helped, and nobody, don't spread this one beyond this room, because they don't like when this is said, but the Cowboys ran Skip Bayless out of town after he wrote the book. It didn't say Skip Aikman was gay. It just said he was gay. And he claimed to have a source. And I've said this part on the radio many times. What Skip did for his source is he went to Barry Switzer, who was the coach of this by this time, 1994. He went to Barry Switzer's 17-year-old daughter and said, have you ever heard any rumors about Troy, who of course is from Oklahoma, as were the Switzers? And she goes, no, not really. He goes, you've never heard, have you heard the rumor that he's gay? She goes, well, no. Well, sidebar. So I covered John Elway in Denver, then I went to San Francisco and covered Montana and Young, then I came here and covered Aikman, and guess what they all were in the rumors in the streets? Gay. Every one of them. Isn't that weird? Steve Young was, and Steve Young was, yeah. Steve Young was unmarried, and he was, it's that old Seinfeld thing. He was single,
good-looking guy.
single, good-looking, and neat, or something. Yeah, something like that. Aikman wasn't gay. Montana wasn't gay. Steve Young wasn't gay. Elway wasn't gay. So Skip plants that seed in this little girl's head, and then comes back, a month later and says, "Hey, Becky, you ever heard anything about Aikman's sexuality? She said, well, I heard he was gay." Well, yeah, Becky, you heard he was gay from Skip a month ago, you dumbass. But she's 17. That's Skip's source. And so Skip was able to write in the book people close to Troy Aikman, even those back in Oklahoma have always suspected that he's gay. Forgetting the fact that what difference does it make? He'd won 3 Super Bowls by that time. It really was kind of immaterial what his sexuality was. But yes, he was also, dating this girl publicly and dating that girl privately. And all I ever said was, privately, he could be bi, I suppose, because I've seen him with women. I've seen him with women. So maybe over there's some, but he's not gay, and Montana's not gay, and Elway's not gay. But this was the way for Skip to get a foothold in his 3rd book on the Cowboys, because he'd run out of gas, and the publisher basically said, if you got something good. So Skip made up something good that really comes from the same place that when we go to I'm dating myself again, but you go to a Tom Cruise movie and your girlfriend goes, I'll tell you what, he's hot. And you go, well, yeah, but he's about this tall and he's gay. You got to get your foothold back in somewhere. That's where those NFL rumors come from. Skip's the first person to ever actually make hundreds of thousands of dollars by writing a book from it. So the moral to this story is, whatever we do, in your business, which sounds fascinating to me, by the way, and we should probably talk, and in yours, and it sounds like you're making great headway, and on and on and on. Whatever we do, can we do it really fair? And can we do it really balanced? And when Des Bryant has something important to say, even if he's wrong, maybe he's wrong about race in America, that we should just, that black people and white people should just move forward. Maybe that's wrong. But before we yell at him that he's wrong, let's at least give him respect. Give him the respect for the life he's led, which has been extremely difficult. You guys are probably familiar. Extremely difficult. His grandfather is his dad. His mom sold drugs in the house to make ends meet. There were strangers laying he'd go to elementary school and have to walk over the strangers laying on the living room floor to go to work. So rather than judge him or argue with him, why don't we listen to him and put stock in his version of race in America, because his version is a real version. Not worth arguing about, just worth listening to. In my contention, I wrote this. Forget the Skip Baylessization of arguing. Forget the Stephen A. Smith blowing it to Stephen A. Smithereens. Let's just listen, because his point is real. Might be different from ours, but his point is real. That would be fair. That would be balanced. And I think all of us, in our separate interests, if we would borrow from that, while we're being competitive, let's also be fair and balanced. Then I think we can all get somewhere, and I think we can get there together.
Quick question, we as technologists, how can we help practically in that situation? You have been an advocate, you have been a positive force, you have been ridiculed for being a back pocket boy. You know, there's been a lot of this over the years. How do you see technology as helping or hurting this? I think.
I'm right there with you. While Skip wrote his second book, I wrote my first book. And the reason mine was better isn't because I'm more gifted than him or whatever. I wrote what the players said. I let them tell their stories. I didn't tell stories on them. I let them tell their stories. So the story about Kenny Gant spending $20,000 a week in strip clubs. Kenny Gant now is a minister.
So is Alexander, right?
Is he? Good. The Michael Irvin stories. You know, he told me his story. I didn't tattle on him. He told me his stories about his struggles, which is putting it mildly. His struggles, by the way, which continue with being faithful to his wife and faithful to his faith. I let them tell the stories. And so Jimmy Johnson came out after my book and he said, I don't agree with everything that's in Fisher's book, but it's all true. Which was great. You know, Jimmy and I were not best friends. It was an incredible endorsement from him. So, in what we do in technology, as it relates to sports, and it relates to people that like you deal with, and like we all maybe want to deal with, because an association with a Jerry Jones, a Des Bryant, a Dirk Nowitzki, a Michael Young, get us somewhere, right? And now all the things we're trying to do, just let them tell their stories. I think that's central.
One of the things, I think from a technology standpoint, you're a content creator. At your core, you've been a content creator. And so technology is giving us platforms and tools that we've never had before, that we can do them so quickly. And so I think there's one side of this equation where, because we have 3 different 24-hour sports channels or stations in the Metroplex,
right,
they've got to do something.
Right.
And there is only so many stories. That's part of the problem as I see it, but also that the tools are so readily available to let anybody broadcast their asinine ideas instantly. So again, coming back to what do you suggest, how can you help this community of sports technologists to be part of the solution, and what can we be aware of from some of the pitfalls?
Yeah, it's a great point, because we do have technology moving us beyond the point where we probably deserve to be in terms of our talents as storytellers. Forget journalism, just storytellers, because we're all storytellers, right? It used to be in the newspaper business, you had to be a beat writer. There was a pyramid that you had to climb. You covered high school girls volleyball, then you got to cover high school football, and then you got to cover college sports, and then finally you got to cover the NFL, and then only then did you become a columnist. And only then did you, as a columnist, get to write your opinion. In 1982, when I started in newspapers, you didn't write your opinion in game stories. You just wrote the facts. And the quote, a good quote would be the juicy part of it. Well, now, Twitter, everybody's a columnist. Everybody's got an opinion. And the concept, which I still adhere to, of opinions that aren't fact-based, are worthless to me. And I say this to my son all the time. He goes, well, you know, Dad, I think. I said, I don't care if you think it. What's the facts behind it? I'm not interested in, you can say the sky's green if you want to, but I need facts. And if I could teach that, I think, certainly in my profession, but maybe in all of ours, we'd be better off. Wild, hot sports, hot takes, everybody's got a fascinating view, everybody's got a juicy, that's not, excuse my language, that's not it. What's the facts first? Then you can have an opinion based on the facts. I wish we would do that right, even though everybody has Twitter, everybody's a professional photographer, kind of, right? Everybody's a videographer. If there was just some way for all of us to make sure that we have some training, so we really know how to put together, how to tell a story, whether it's with our voice, with our fingers, or with a camera.
I want to give you a chance for some questions.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
2 quick comments. So you're saying fact finding, right?
Yeah.
You see more Facebook, like, you know, as you're scrolling through, find the facts of the news, or
Yeah.
how do you find the facts of the news or whatever, factual news, and not just made up news? Because
Right.
I think a lot of this social media stuff, like what you're saying, is completely made up
Yeah.
to get the story, to get the publicity or whatever role. But I
In
also
fact,
think
let me answer that one. The reason Facebook's doing that, and you see it, I know what you're saying. They put up posts saying, just like warning, it's almost like warning, right? They think that they may have been misused in determining who the President of the United States is. Because Facebook allows people to write anything. And the one that took off was, again, we don't have to pick political sides here, but the Hillary Clinton is running a child slavery business out of a basement pizza business in Washington, D.C. was a real story. I mean, it's ridiculous, obviously. But again, regardless of what your political affiliation is, that on its surface is ridiculous. That what was she, the Secretary of
State.
It's the Secretary of State. Secretary of State is running a child slavery business out of a Pizza Hut.
And you know who did
But
it?
you can go find it right now.
And you know who did it? You know who put that story out?
Who did that one?
Flint's son.
There you go. And in fairness, there's also ridiculous stories about every politician on both sides. So I share your concerns. And if you don't have some level of astuteness, how do you know it? How do you know it's fake? President Trump, again, very cleverly, has adopted fake news as his accusation. When I think it's pretty much been established that he gets a lot of his news not from his advisors, but from InfoWars and Breitbart and news outlets that have their own biases. So it's a danger. It's a real danger. And then you had a second question too.
So I was just gonna make another comment, is that what you're kind of saying is that I feel people think they're entitled to quickly get on an app and throw it out there in Facebook land and Snapchat or whatever and just throw their opinion too quickly out.
Right, and again, same with our industries where, well, I mean, we're in a hurry because if we don't hurry up and do it, somebody else is gonna beat us. But at the same time, you gotta do it right or it won't work. And again, that's what I have to do every day. I'm trying to be first. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to say that Des Bryant's running a child slavery outfit out of a Pizza Hut in Washington D.C. And I don't care about the hits.
Okay, so along those lines, let's talk just a little bit about that. This is a factual revelation of, give them an idea of what kind of traffic you're getting these days. And also give a very brief overview of the network you've built. I mean, I can
Okay.
show them some of the sites, but that gets us into these guys, how did you build this? How do you get this? There are limits here. So to me, those two topics touch on each other. So expand just a little bit on
Okay.
how you got that and.
A lot of it was really just stumbling into it. Dallas, after I'd done radio and newspaper for years, DallasBasketball.com was Cuban guiding me.
I mean, he literally pulled you aside, and y'all talked, and he said,
And he said, you
ought to do this.
You should do this, and I will give you a thumbs up, wink, wink,
Yes.
and help make it work. And then that was really the thing for like a decade. That was my
it
thing.
was articles and a forum that just,
Right. And it's, on July 1st, which is the opening of NBA free agency, there'll be 195,000 people on, my little mom and pop website. Now, I'm connected with scout.com, which you guys might know, that's like Rivals, it's the big high school recruiting site. So now it's on there, and then I told them, give me the Cowboys site, so I run that too. I now work for 105.3 The Fan for the last 5 years. Well, I write for them, so those stories go on CBS, all of CBS applications, all their websites it's available to. And so, I can get the word out there pretty quick and pretty easy. Look at that fat son of a bitch. What was that picture taken?
I don't know if the bus hit you or what.
You're stopping the bus.
And so between radio and then I've done a lot of TV too, radio and TV and newspapers, and then now social media and the websites. Yeah, it's 20 hours a day. It's a good thing I like it, because if I didn't like this, I'd be miserable. Because I spend a lot of time on it. I'm on Twitter a lot, too much.
And there's no excuse for hard work. You're constantly on it, you're constantly available, and
Yeah.
you work at it yourself. So there is no farming it all out. However, you've built these networks that play off each other.
Right.
And leverage it. And there are tools out there to help you do that.
We bought a house up here, 5 minutes north of the Star in Frisco, because this is where I need to be. When you told me that this event was here, because at first I thought it was in Denton. But because I'll come here, I can swing over to Texas Legends or across the street. I'm gonna be at the Star in Frisco anyway. My bar's 11 minutes away, it can all work together. And trying to find a way to have all those layers be related, yeah, that's wise. And that can be done in all the things we're talking about. That's why, by the way, that's why basketball becomes, flag football becomes, softball becomes whatever. The same blueprint applies, just layer on top of each other.
I've got tons of questions, but if you've got a question, please, I don't want to miss it.
Ask away.
I'd like you to spend just a little time, and you guys think of the question if you have, I'd like to spend a little time on what you see happening in the near future. Again, the days of planning 3 to 5 years are gone. What do you see happening in the next year or so as it affects your business and affects some of the sports teams in this area? I mean, the Cowboys alone have been just trendsetters.
Yeah.
They were one of the first teams that I recall that allowed, they broke away from the NFL. They did their own website. They've got their own team that's producing amazing content.
Yeah.
Their podcasts are growing. They're hiring full-time people. What do you see it going in the future? And as technologists, what should we be thinking about? What should we be planning for as it relates to sports? and
Well,
technology?
Jerry Jones is incredible, and to all the people that hate him, and I know they are legion, and I've said this for 26 years of knowing him, if you could just get in a room with him for 5 minutes, you wouldn't hate him anymore. He's incredible. He's schmoozy, and he's corny, and he never shuts up, but he's just fascinating and brilliant. When people paint this picture of him as, he just fell off the turnip truck somewhere between Little Rock and, oh no, he's way smarter than you are. And he goes, he never stops. Goes. Sleeps 4 hours a night. That's it. And now he's 70, 74 and still going. Stephen Jones, we were talking about, this goes back a couple months, when Dad passes, you got it all set up? He goes, yeah. He goes, but he's going to be in charge till they put a tag on his toe, he says. Now, Jerry's, he listens to his lieutenants now more than he ever has. It's not all, the old jocks and socks thing, it's not all that. But his first big innovation in this area was at training camp at St. Anthony's 1991 or something. Kevin Gogan, a big offensive lineman, walks out there. And he goes, "It's like a fucking carnival out here. They're selling T-shirts, and they got popcorn, and then they got around the fence, they have ads, like a minor league baseball park." And Gogan said, "It's like a fucking circus out here." I said, "That's how they pay you, Gogan. That pays for you. Don't you get it? It's okay." How do you think NASCAR pays for its cars? Put an M&M ad on the side of the car. It's brilliant. What Jerry did shortly after that was, and this is stretched now to all the things that all the NFL does. So I'm sitting in his office in March of 91, and he goes, "Mr. Mack, watch this." He has Maryland call the Cincinnati Bengals. Maryland gets Cincinnati Bengals online. He puts it on speakerphone. Ring, ring, ring. It just rings and rings and rings. Not only does a secretary not answer, or a phone lady not answer, or the general manager doesn't answer, the coach doesn't answer, nobody answers. There's no answer. They're off in March. Now, this is only 20 years ago. Can you imagine that today? They just took off. They're done. They're taking vacation. All of them. Like it was your wife's boutique lingerie shop down here at Shops of Legacy that she doesn't really want to work at. She just likes lingerie. He's changed the whole NFL that way. There's no, and he went and told the Bengals, "Who's your big?" And I think it's Scott Towels or something. One of the top. Go tell Scott Towels that they're the official sponsor of the back page of your program. They'll give you $1 million.
You know, back to the sharing, one of the first things was the draft cam. Let's just take a camera and we'll let them watch.
Right.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
Well, it's a staple now.
Now, coach, the football people hate all that stuff. And the football
Hard
people,
knocks, same thing.
the coaches hate hard knocks, and they don't like the banners, and they don't like the cameras and all that, but it pays their salary, and the smart ones realize it. Jason Garrett makes $5 million a year. Coaches 20 years ago made $1 million a year. Well, where do you think that money comes from? And so, even though Jerry's marketing first and football second in a lot of ways, the marketing pays for the football, and the football wouldn't exist without the marketing. I say this to players all the time that bitch about fans and the media. I said, dude, if you want to just go play football in a vacuum, there's an elementary school right over there. Go play your ass off. But if you want to get paid for it, you got to do it this way. Me and Des we call it the George Clooney rule, and we talk about it all the time. He says, "Yeah, I can't believe that they did that." I said, "Dude, you're George Clooney. This is the first time." And he goes, "What?" I go, "You're George Clooney." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "George Clooney sometimes gets uncomfortable." Alec Baldwin's an even better example. A paparazzi wants to take his picture, and they want to punch him. And I feel like telling Alec Baldwin or George Clooney, "Your handsome face is the only reason we care about you. You have to let us take your picture. It's why you exist. It's why you make $20 million a movie." So that's the George Clooney rule for Des. If you want to make $10 million a year, then you have to put up with people coming up to you at dinner and asking you for autograph. It's a really fair trade.
And that goes down a whole other rabbit trail, but it's ironic how when they're a rookie, they definitely want your time.
Mhm.
They would love Mike Fisher to interview them.
Yeah.
Once they made their first Pro Bowl,
Yeah.
it's,
I bet you deal with this. FC Dallas, which is right up here. This really is. Was it you that said a moment ago? It's called the $5 billion court. What's it called?
$5 million mile.
Yeah. They're not even counting that the Rough Riders are right there. Frisco Rough Riders, are they AA Rangers? FC Dallas is Major League Soccer. The Stars train right there. People won't even count them. But I bet you know this. I could call the Texas Legends, D-League, you know that. Rough Riders. Rough Riders gave my son a press credential.
Right.
They don't care. They just want to come to a game. They'll do anything for it. The Cowboys would, if I walked into the front of the Cowboys building without my tag, somebody tackled me. So it is different. The bigger you get, the harder I have to fall.
Let me try to kind of pull this back together. There's been a common thread in what you're talking about. You're talking about basically playing nice, being fair, being considerate is really the beginning of all this. And some of this is just sharing and being vulnerable and being open. As technologists, we walk a very fine line. I want to kind of use Ryan as an example from day one when Ryan started talking to me about this, and his vision for doing this was, I'm even open to putting our code out there for free. What the heck are you talking about? That's just foreign to me, but he's in a different generation and a different mindset.
Right.
And so the fact that he wants to start these meetups and share advice, and someone comes in and says, hey, we're gonna do a soccer app. Well, he's not going, well, I'm gonna do a soccer app later, so you're out of here.
Right.
There is this camaraderie that says we can be better.
That's
for
what I
being
think.
together.
Right.
And at the risk of being very corny, that is a beginning step to being part of the solution.
I mean, I bet you're a go-getter, am I right?
Yeah.
Soccer app, son of a bitch, go-getter. But you could totally use his help. And probably vice versa. And if you guys want to communicate with me, I'll put my email up here on the board, and, hit me that way, I'll be happy to visit.
I would say, to kind of wrap this up, that Mike is a living, breathing example of practicing what he preaches, really to his detriment at times, but I think he also proves that he can be a survivor, come out the other end, and be highly successful and highly, be very, very successful in his business. I've been around when he's been ridiculed and made fun of in different areas.
Still.
But I think he's stuck by his guns, and I think you believe in it in your heart.
Hey, here's how old I am. I had no idea that you should get a short. I didn't have to do this. I didn't know that you could get a short one. I could have just done Fish 19 and been fine. I didn't know. So I put Dallas basketball, Michael Robert, Fish 19. But that's still my
Any last questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question. With the NFL draft coming up, right? How do they create their player boards, their rankings? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah.
Like, is it still done old school scouts? I know that is.
Yep.
But what sort of technology is
Still literally up on a board. And they have a board like this, and it's sticky names.
Are you talking about the team? Are you talking about the media, or all the above?
The team.
Yeah.
The team drafting in their war rooms. How do they get that board in place?
In the Cowboys case, Jerry is the general manager, and he is, but he doesn't know. He's the rubber stamper of this. Stephen, his son, is the overseer below him, and then Will McClay is the scouting director, and he's incredible. And he's in charge of this. And so he's got a staff of scouts underneath him, including guys that work at Star all the time, and then there's a guy in California, and a guy in Florida, and a guy that come into town, once a month. And they'll all get together. They're building it now, I think. And on Tuesday night, it'll be done. And that's it. Now, Jason Garrett, who's got a strong voice, but it's not his board. He'll come in, and Rod Marinelli, defensive coordinator, he'll come in and say, yeah, I don't like that guy. So then they'll all sit around and talk about it. In the case of Marinelli, he'll win some arguments that he shouldn't, because he's not the scouting guru. My old thing is, the scout spends 18 months on a guy, and sometimes these teams screw it up in 18 minutes. But if I got Will McClay approving of that scout from California saying, this guy belongs here, he's the 37th best player in this draft, then I don't like that Rod Marinelli comes in and says, yeah, I'd rather have somebody with more quick twitch, because Rod Marinelli has watched him on film for 2 days. But in the end, on Tuesday night, this will be done. They'll put a curtain over it, so nobody will see it. About half the time, accidentally, Jerry Jones will bring in.
But back to technology, now we're
Back to
getting
technology.
it, and we're zooming in on, and it's hitting the internet.
He brings in Bennett Glazier.
Yeah, exactly.
Glazier is the big liquor distributor. I think this might be the biggest in the country. And it's a friend of Jerry's. He's a great guy, Bennett Glazier. And Bennett Glazier will come in, and they'll take pictures, and they'll sip one. And half the time, you can see the board behind them.
So what was it, a year or so ago, it hit the internet? didn't
Oh
it?
yeah, it's happened about 3 times in the last 8 years.
So right now, everybody's combing the internet, looking for those glimpses,
It's so
so
stupid.
they can zoom in on it, and then come out and screw up somebody's
It
draft.
happens so often that I sometimes think they're doing it on purpose to either drum up attention or putting up some fake names. But invariably, it ends up being the right board, pretty damn close.
In terms of the technology and kind of what we see now, and what we, I guess you saw it in baseball first, where it really kind of hit mainstream, talking about analytics and
Yeah.
looking at the numbers as opposed to the player, and then picking the player based on the numbers. How can, has there become kind of a coexistence there? Because I still hear Brian Broaddus, who I love and I follow, and I take his it's gospel.
Brian Broaddus is
But-
he's a former NFL scout who helped build the Packers, was high ranking with the Eagles, worked for the Cowboys for years. Now he works for Cowboys.com and with us at the Fan as a media draft guy.
And even
Real
he
quick,
seems to have-
sidebar. I'm at an event with him 3 years ago, and he goes, okay, go over there and talk to Broaddus and tell him he needs to be on Twitter. Now he's a Twitter monster.
Yeah.
The guy's insane.
Yeah.
And you said, go tell him about Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, sidebar.
Well, he seems to, it's almost kind of been, very old school. It's about the tape. And then the numbers kind of seem to kind of come afterwards, which I think is why his gurus now at the Fan, like Kavanaugh and Kevin Turner, why they kind of butt heads on some of that, because those guys try to look at the analytics of it as well, as opposed to just looking at.
But at least Broaddus is listening to sports analytics, and you're talking about, there's now a classic argument, and it still exists in baseball. Bill James was the first analytics guy in baseball. It took years for baseball to finally hire him. I think the Red Sox or somebody hired him. You know the movie Moneyball? That's what that's about, is there something besides just a guy that hits the most home runs? Is there another way to do this, especially cheaper? But where the argument now is boiling down to, especially for sports writers who don't want to work harder, is they don't understand that analytics is simply an extension of, I had 4 at-bats, I had 2 hits, what's my batting average? That's all analytics is, only it's more advanced, but it's just math. It's nothing to be scared of. But I think the sports writer, especially the ones maybe even over 35, sometimes poo-poo sports analytics, not because they don't believe in them, but because they don't understand. The first caveman that said, whichever one of us hits that stick, that tree with this rock wins. And then he said, I won 1-0. That was sports analytics. Same thing. Therefore, there shouldn't be a controversy. It's just the first guy that hit the tree with a rock.
My concern is with the complete overabundance of data, raw data, and these outlets, that it becomes so hyper valued.
Like whip,
Exactly,
yes.
exactly. And so my big concern is, we've got this giant snowball going downhill. What will stop it?
Okay,
And if ultimately that's going to get a guy like Skip Bayless $6 million, who has the motivation not to do that? There aren't too many more Mike Fishers.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys can answer the question for yourself, but when people ask me, if Skip's really like that, then how does he sleep at night? And I said, because he doesn't have a conscience. He sleeps fine. But most of us wouldn't be able to sleep. I'll take the $5 million, but like what we always talk about, guys who are my friends in the industry will say, you know what, I'd do it for a year, and then I'd go buy an island, and I wouldn't be able to show my face anymore. But get my family a lot of good stuff for $5 million. It's not a comfortable place to be. I'm not a fan of it. The honesty about how to do even analytics, and I think this plays very much into your app and how it feels and how it looks and what the content is. You guys know what Pro Football Focus is? It's Chris Collinsworth is one of the big the NBC's analysts, and they attempt to do a marvelous job. They grade in real time every player in every game on a Sunday, on an NFL Sunday. That sounds pretty cool, Pro Football Focus. Except, unless it's the same guy doing all the grades, how do you know what the standards are? It's not the same guy. There's 16 games on an NFL weekend. It can't be the same guy. And 8 of them are happening at the same time. And they're doing it, they're immediate. Boom, 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 boom. Secondly, how do you know if I'm an offensive lineman and I went like this? How do you know it wasn't did I miss a block, or was it my job to go out here? How does some guy sitting in Boise in front of his TV know that? So I think that's a good example, of them. The technology is so moving so fast that they try to catch up with it with information that it can't be real. It's an attempt at reality, but it's bogus.
Okay, two things, and I can go in different directions. If you guys need to leave for anything reason, let us know. I keep going all night, but, was I wrong? Did Troy Aikman come up with his own quarterback rating
Yeah.
because of that same problem? Recently, not
Yeah.
too long ago.
QBR,
and then I don't know if it ever got adoption, but.
Well, then you've got real there's
Yeah.
like
So
varieties of QBR,
Right,
real QBR, and.
I think Fox probably urged him to do that, or somebody does it for him, because that's not his bag.
Well, yeah, it's really annoying, those over analytics, because like, I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
And so I,
Oh, man.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Hey, you guys beat me the day before, so it's all good. Yeah, like the analytics, like you can ask any GM in the league, they'll probably take Antonio Brown as one or two as their top wide receiver. But
Right.
that Pro Football Focus like constantly had him like 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's just dumb. So that's why I think like sometimes, like he was saying, like there are too many analytics that it's hard to like.
Right.
Which one should you put more value into?
If I could get if I have a scout who does it the old-fashioned way and believe in sports analytics, I got my guy.
If you had the analytics you have now in '89 or '88, or you don't draft Emmitt Smith, you know, it's
Yeah.
his measurables
Right.
at that time as
Right.
compared to what you see now. Just he's a second rounder.
Yeah.
You know, he's not strictly based on metrics.
And that's the same thing with Dak. Dak when he went fourth run.
Right. There's just some things you can't measure.
Well, yeah, and like basketball, like I see like the Warriors, it's like obviously when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are on the floor, their plus minus is probably gonna be better than when like they're on the floor with someone else. So like when I look at like analytics, I don't take too much value in them
Yeah.
because like I can just tell seeing, like I'm probably more old school even though I'm
Right.
younger. Like I don't care about analytics. Like
Yeah. Well, I would urge you to find a balance.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
try.
thing. That's the thing, because they do actually, that's my problem, is why I was asking. Is there has to be a balance and a coexistence, because when you do break them down, more often than not, they fit. They
Listen,
fit
you'll
a
notice,
narrative.
here's a proof that you can't just do analytics. You could never have an analytics guy who said, well, I've never watched him play. I just got the numbers. That doesn't work. And the same way around. I want the more, nice to meet you, thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Take my email if you need it.
I got you, thanks.
Can you, okay. I can't imagine a scout not watching film, and now, and say, okay, you say you're not in analytics.
Yeah.
But you know that Ben Roethlisberger's hand measures 11 inches across, right?
Yeah.
Why do you care?
I don't.
Yeah, you do.
Well, I care because he can hold on to the ball.
That's why you care.
Yeah.
So I need to measure how wide his hand is. Something we didn't do that 30 years ago, for sure.
We did a show about it last.
But I gotta measure his hand. And I gotta know about his family. And the smart scouts, and again, this goes beyond just football. The smart scouts go to the games, and I know college recruiters do this in high school. And like, you can see the good ones from the bad ones, because the good ones go, okay, the bad ones, I've seen enough, and leave at halftime. The good ones watch after the game to see what the kid does with his mom, and what the kid does with the cheerleaders, and does he go shake hands with the other team, and does he help carry the equipment back to the shed? And that's a good scout, and that's probably a better player who does those things. So there you go.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time, appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for coming.